talking about the divergence of popular brands in our age demographic and what are they actually worth on the open market. Please explain this to me like I'm a freaking child.
Okay. Well, you are, so this should be easy. Insert Michael Scott explain it to me like I'm 5 GIF here. But what I wanted to talk about, was kind of just the most popular brands that we've seen of not only people our age, but, Ryan, you and I have younger siblings. Justin, you have older siblings. Just also the brands that are on the fringe of older millennials and Gen Zers, and then we are kind of stuck in the middle between the two. So I just wanted to talk about brands such as Patagonia, where it's this huge widespread brand, and then yet you realize that it doesn't have nearly the amount of sales that a Nike does. And I just think it's really, it's always interesting to see when you go and are researching brands like that. Lululemon, I know Nike are 3 apparel companies that are very popular, but you also look at a brand like Apple is extremely popular and worth nearly $2 trillion nowadays, at least on paper. So, I mean, what are some brands that just stick out to y'all that are in everyday life, but are you think are worth more than people realize, or maybe worth not as much as people realize?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay. I'd say Microsoft is one. I mean, anytime you open your computer, they're in some way involved, either through Teams or like Excel. I mean, everybody has to use that product. It's something that everybody, maybe not everyone's going to think like, hey, this is a huge company that has multiple different revenue streams. And like
a lot of people know Microsoft is big.
But I mean, just going back to
undervalued.
I mean, look at what Bill Gates built from where he started. That's just one that comes to my mind. It's like a good example of kind of starting off in the background, but now everybody knows who they are, and they'll continue to be successful.
Yeah, and kind of in that same vein, I think Adobe is hella undervalued. I think they're going to be implemented into a lot of things we do, just kind of like how DocuSign emerged pretty heavily. Adobe has the infrastructure already to do stuff like that across the board and take a really just stranglehold on the market. I think a lot of schools are using this, especially if we're going, teleworking and telecommuting and teleschooling, all that stuff. Anything virtual, they're gonna have some stuff in place that's gonna be used across the board.
Yeah, another one I think is Yeti. I mean, look at
we know how you feel about Yeti. Yeah,
literally one of my favorite companies ever in brands. I mean, I think that they're just going to continue to grow and take over the outdoor space as far as coolers, cups, clothing.
Dude, they're cutting edge. Yeah, all the time. Like their new stuff, their product development is awesome. There's some stuff we haven't even seen yet. They have in the mix. Like it's pretty cool. I saw their chairs before they got released, and I was like, I need this.
It's like $400, but
I need this. I can't afford it. I need
people
this.
Buy it though.
Yeti, drop the bag.
I don't think anything on Yeti is sold for under $400, no matter what it is. But see, Yeti was actually one that I would consider to be less. I'm surprised it's as a high of a. I know it's talking about stock, but it's valued as much as it is, mainly because it has insane competition. I understand people buy it for.
Yeah, I'm surprised
because that's my background is marketing. So I understand that point of it, but I can also understand when something costs 20% less and it's, no discernible difference of, granted, this is talking about the original tumblers and those types of products. But another one I wanted to point out is going tying back into sports betting is I don't think people realize. I think people know how much money is involved in the NFL, but it also is one of the most recognizable entities in the entire world. And I think that it still has so much room, as hard as it is to believe, grow not only internationally. I understand the hurdles that go into that, of it not being as popular of a game internationally, but in terms of just viewership and expanding franchise and brand value, I think the NFL is one that everyone just kind of take for granted. We've seen that with COVID, and it potentially shutting down. It took that for us to realize, like, oh, we might not have, an NFL football season. And then it just, we still consume that product. At least us three, I know, consume that product pretty heavily. I'll be watching Hard Knocks later tonight. So, and they will do nothing. They will have COVID tests and walk through practices and Sean McVay taking his shirt off again unnecessarily. So,
and unnecessary drama. Dude, Pate, I'm on the other side of you, man. If we're talking about our generation, I think the NFL might take a hit, especially with the concussion stuff coming out. I really think people are shifting to other sports more heavily and getting more interest in that. And NFL's taken a little bit of a hit. I mean, they're always going to have some kind of control. Like they are the best when it comes to their marketing and all that stuff. Like it's great, but I think for our generation, we're not going to have a lot of our kids playing football growing up, and like that's going to affect it. It may not be our generation, but it might take another generation to come in and damage it substantially. But I think we're headed in that direction. I don't want to see that, but I think that's the reality, especially with generation Gen Z.
I think at some point you're going to find an equilibrium of everyone knows the dangers of football by this point. And what it is to play it. It's still such an out though for people in not awesome situations, that especially incredibly athletic people. And if the money stays good, you're still going to see people play it no matter what.
That's the thing though. The money isn't that great compared to other sports,
Yeah, but it's cheaper to play football than it is to learn golf or baseball and play those sports. So,
and basketball is such a small population that it's hard to break that surface.
The biggest growth that in soccer, I do,
especially their international play, because I mean that gets more people involved. There's so much talent across the board, even at the developmental leagues and international leagues in China and Europe and all that. So yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, another one completely different is Spotify. Spotify, I think it's hard to believe that it still has so much more room to grow, especially globally, that I think it's north of 150 million subscribers by now. And it's outpacing Apple. It's not outpacing, it's keeping pace with Apple Music's growth. And it has a higher NPS score. People like it better is what that translates to in normal people terms. But it's all over the place on people's phones. And then I still feel like people don't realize the value. It hadn't realized its value yet and reached its potential.
Dude, I didn't even think about that. That's one of the biggest things for our generation. I mean, I talk to my parents or even like my older brother and sister, like they don't realize the value that Spotify has for its users. But everyone is in our age or younger, that's what they use. At least all my friends do. Anyone I've ever talked to, if they know what they're doing on a computer or know what they're doing with their music, they definitely use Spotify and use it to its full potential for podcasts, playlists, sharing, everything. I think the only reason people use Apple Music is because it's the same thing with like Safari. It's the thing that's on your phone when you get it. You have to download Spotify. You have to download Chrome, but they're far superior to anything you're going to get when you first get your device.
Yeah, and that goes into the not so small company Ryan mentioned of why Microsoft ended up with an antitrust suit back in the late 90s is they're owning the rails. Apple owns the rails, and then they charge people to use those rails. And that's just the way it is. But yeah, Spotify. And then I think us three have a unique perspective too of us and people slightly older than us. We're some of the last people that used and remember like burning CDs and paying $1.99 for songs. Look how far we've come in just a short period.
And then LimeWire.
And then
if you didn't have a virus on your computer by age 13, then you weren't doing things right.
I still remember having to go to Starbucks down the street to burn CDs, and then eventually learn how to.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I had to learn how or get the right computer to do so, and then also just buying a stack of blank CDs.
Yes, and then waiting 3 hours for it to get downloaded on there and naming it yourself. All that stuff, dude. All these apps. I mean, not even just Spotify, but I think we all see the extreme value in it.
Ryan, what about you? Do you have any others?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Spotify one. That's a good one with Joe Rogan going over there.
Coming to Austin, baby.
Yeah, he's going to Austin, and I think more are going to fall in there. Apparently, Austin's going to become like a huge comedy hub now because of that. Because he's just going to bring all of his friends there, and they're going to want to perform when they're doing his podcast. So
it was already up and coming, yeah, but it's going to take off.
It's pretty cool. That's a really good example. I mean, I like the Yeti example just because, like, when you think of quality,
we need to widen your horizons. We're not talking about
Ryan. Is Yeti paying you, man? Like, do you have some inside track that you're not going to tell us? I mean, don't tell us on screen. Tell us off screen because
let's get a sponsor. Let's do it. I mean,
dude, drop the bag, Yeti. Yes, I want that right now.
Let's go. I'll keep name dropping them all day for that.